Here we are, people, the smouldering remains. It seems a lot of the wood did actually burn anyway, particularly the stuff inside. Well, there we go, eh? Our cardboard house is over. I'm not crying, that's not why I have these on, it's because it is extremely bright out here. Has this cloudless sky, not a flaming cloud in all directions. Anyway, that's the end of that. That was a interesting, what was it, 2-year-long experiment? Yeah. It was definitely an engineering challenge. There was a point there partway through I didn't think I was going to be able to do it. Some people thought it was ridiculous. Some people were quite intrigued. But most of all, I had a go at doing something which is generally not very commonly in existence. When I first started, I had actually done a YouTube search and didn't find any cardboard buildings or cardboard house that was legitimate. To find out later that there's probably about a dozen structures worldwide, and this was one of them. I have thought of lots of ways that it could have been done better, but of course you always do think that after you build your first one of anything. You always notice ways where it could have been done better, and a lot of these things only come to light once you've actually built it. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting ride. Something that I don't think many people would have seen if I hadn't have actually built one. I love the idea of stepping out and having a go and doing something that is very uncommon or almost unheard of. You know, there's guys who do stuff like those blokes who sent the little Lego man right up into outer space and somehow hooked a camera on and somehow got the data back, all on a tiny little balloon, and you could actually see the curvature of the Earth. And those guys done it on a budget of couple $100, you know. I love to see stuff like that. I love to see bizarre and alternative things, and so instead of just watch this stuff, I decided to follow through and actually do one. I had hoped it was going to be more of a media hit, but I was not knowledgeable on how that sort of stuff worked. It seems in many cases things actually get famous online first and then get followed by the media later. But all the same, thanks to Kirsten Dirksen and Before the News for putting it up on their channels and websites respectively. Yeah, I was sort of a little bit lost for words, to be honest. I thought I'd have a hell of a lot to say. Yeah, remember all the people saying, oh, I wouldn't survive a rain, you know, and stuff like this, and it's like, no, it's got a waterproof coating. I know there's a lot of things in cardboard that are coming to the fore, and we shouldn't be too far off seeing the Israeli-designed cardboard bike, and I've seen very short clips of that actually, like, in construction, and let me tell you, it was amazing. Even the seat was honeycomb cardboard as much as this was. You don't seem to have that much of the insulation actually left, but when the ash blows away on the wind, I'll probably find quite a lot of it laying amongst all this. In today's disposable world, I really wanted to capture the idea of a house that could be used for temporary accommodation and just quickly disposed of later, but but also one that was recyclable. With the glue types used in this, that wasn't really the case. It was partially recyclable. Since then, I have worked out what I could have done to make it 95% recyclable. It would have been a little bit harder in one aspect to build it, but ultimately it would have only been a few minutes of tearing the outer coating off the building, and everything else would have been completely recyclable. Just quite literally crush it and take it down to the cardboard recycling joint, or tear it into panels and take it. That's how it would have been if I had to build a second prototype based on that principle. I was constrained a lot by money, and surprisingly, this is Australia. You can't buy anything in Australia. There's a lot of things they will only sell to you if you've got a business number. The wholesalers, just paperwork-wise, they can't even deal with members of the public half the time. They will only deal with people who have a business number. And, well, I no longer have mine. And so it made it a lot harder to get some of the cardboard. There were people who I could have got stuff off, but they didn't want to give me any samples or any clue, probably because they were worried that I was going to copy their cardboard coffins. But I wanted to have a good look and, you know, get hold of some of that high quality cardboard for the purpose of this, and I got fobbed off. When you've got a lot of money and a lot of time, say if a Japanese company, and the Japanese are into all this stuff, and there is a Japanese architect who goes around building cardboard related stuff and talking about cardboard and paper for temporary shelters. He's built a church in Christchurch, New Zealand, who's had 3 earthquakes in recent years, that's designed not to kill you, like so many of the other churches did with the people that were inside when there was earthquakes. And there's, you know, one of his buildings is standing over there, but he spent 25 years looking into this. And if anybody was to take it on, it would be the Japanese. No doubt about it. Probably followed by copycat ones by the Chinese. As my mother said, it's probably a bit ahead of its time. I think she was right. But you just think of all the people who were, you know, you got people who were homeless. I think of in the States seeing something that, well, my uncle saw it actually. It was a woman who had lost a house 3 times in 7 years to tornadoes. And you think of places like, well, you know, down in Louisiana, New Orleans there, Hurricane Katrina, you know. I've seen cardboard boats. That's not actually that uncommon and undoable to get a cardboard boat. And you think of things like this in disasters. I mean, it probably wouldn't have worked in New Orleans, but you think of other cases where there's things that have hit pretty hard, and even people who, you know, don't really have a lot of money or whatnot, or people who may have a house that's so dilapidated it damn near collapses on them, as I've seen with an elderly hillbilly woman on YouTube, and all the wood was rotten in this building. I mean, one branch and it could have taken the whole house down, and you think she's at the end of her days, but she still needs somewhere to live that's going to last for 5 years. This lasted for almost 2, and this was the first prototype. If you build a better one, could you get it to last for 5? The answer is most likely yes. And then she'd have a decent house to live in her last days. I look at the housing situation here. There are very, very few empty houses, unless you want to go way out in the middle of nowhere where there's no jobs. Some of that, you know, and the other thing is detention centres. Europe only now is getting an idea, only now, of what it's like to have real refugee numbers in their country, you know. This stuff of the young boy washing up on the shore in Turkey, north of where I grew up, they've had 5 people wash up dead in one day. In one day. This is the level of refugees that are poured into Australia. The detention centres are too full. They've got people in beds on the veranda. That's how full they are. They're actually using resources and buildings of the Catholic Church to fit all these refugees in. This has been what we've seen with refugees, while the rest of the world was telling us that we should take more. But percentage of refugees taken in comparative to number of population, you know, refugees taken in per year, per capita, we were taken in the highest in the world, where everybody told us we should take in more. And it's got ridiculous. We've got detention centres in Papua New Guinea and other countries, you know, and stuff like this. We were ready to set up one in Malaysia that almost went through, but it was stopped by a High Court challenge. And you think, well, this could be an answer to their inability to house all the refugees that that we have experienced while being criticised by the rest of the world, and now Europe is starting to get a feel for what it's like. But this could have been an answer. This was one built by hand. I think of things, an egg carton style design, spray painted with a varnish seal, and you could mass produce them, you know, and you could bang these out, you know, 30 a day to 1,000 a day, you know, depending on how big your operation was. I'm not saying everybody wants to live in a cardboard house, but it would alleviate temporary problems, and then they would be recyclable at a later point. But anyway, that is this experiment done and dusted, and some lessons learned from it all.